It's still the morning show here on Arise News, and now we take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Thousands of supporters who had thronged Government House Port Harcourt on Thursday to welcome the reinstated Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara went home disappointed after he failed to appear. Fubara was scheduled to resume duties as Governor of Rivers State on Thursday, following the end of the 6-month emergency rule imposed on the state by President Bola Tinubu on March 18. Among the governor's allies at the scene were former Commissioner for Housing, Evans Bigby, former Commissioner for Power, Solomon Eke, former Commissioner for Youth, Chisom Bala, and Prince Emejuru, each leading their supporters to the Government House in anticipation of Fubara's return. Also cited were sacked local government chairman Chijioke Ihunwo, Ezebunwo Ichemati, Peter Amakri, and Promise Reginald. Reacting to the governor's delay in return to office, his predecessor, former governor and current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, said that governance extends beyond physical presence in the office, stressing that the governor has the prerogative to determine when and how he resumes official duties. However, Rivers State House of Assembly reconvened yesterday with a vow to probe the budget and expenditures of the former sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired. As the state governor, Sir Siminalayi Fubara's whereabouts are unknown 24 hours after President Bola Tinubu lifted the state of emergency declaration. They also resolved to outline the legislative agenda for the remaining 2 years, promising to work with Governor Fubara and abide by the outcome of the peace parley brokered by President Tinubu. In Osun State, the Osun State chapter of the People's Democratic Party has called on the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court to probe the circumstances surrounding a controversial letter dated September 2, 2025, allegedly issued from his office in connection with the lingering local government fund crisis in the state. The letter purportedly directed that a case before a vacation judge be heard by that judge substantively even after the vacation. Addressing a press conference in Osogbo yesterday, the state's PDP chairman, Honorable Sunday Bisi, said the letter was signed not by a judge, but by an unidentified individual on behalf of a personal aide of the chief judge. He described the letter and its circumstances as a bizarre and unprecedented abuse of judicial process. According to the PDP, the suspicious letter was written despite the fact that no party before the court had applied for such a transfer. The party also alleged that the letter may have been backdated to achieve political ends, warning that such action, if confirmed, would amount to a grievous injury on the nation's judicial integrity. And moving on, the Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory Area Councils and Ancillary Matters has appealed to striking resident doctors in the FCT to suspend their ongoing industrial action, pledging to intervene directly with the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike to address their grievances. During an emergency meeting held yesterday with leaders of the FCT chapter of the National Association of Resident Doctors, the committee led by its chairman, Senator David Jim Kuta, Taraba South, acknowledged the legitimacy of the doctors' concerns and promised immediate engagement with relevant authorities. The lawmaker stressed that the ongoing strike is taking a severe toll on patients, many of whom rely solely on public healthcare facilities in the capital. He commended the doctors for their patriotism in remaining in the country despite the worsening conditions and acknowledged that their demands are not selfish but aimed at strengthening the nation's crumbling health system. NARD FCT had declared an indefinite strike last week, citing long-standing welfare and infrastructure issues. All right, good morning, Dr. Bati and Rufai. Dr. Bati, you're welcome back. How was your lecture yesterday?
Yeah, it was okay.
Yes, Dr. Bati went on an academic expedition yesterday.
Went lecturing.
Lecturing. All right, you're welcome back. We had been by yesterday.
Yes.
Rufai, your take on these stories this morning. Starting off, of course, with, I used the hashtag yesterday, where is Sim Fubara? Well, the FCT minister seems to think that he can govern from anywhere. But beyond that, the Osun State Local Council and the update on this, very interesting one there. And of course, finally, resident doctors in Abuja on strike. They're asking them to please come back to work and they'll negotiate. Your take on the stories.
How will the FCT minister not think SIM can govern for anywhere? Because of the level of aberration our nation has become. Because we have a country where governors do not sit down in their states. See, a nation that values privilege over virtue will lose both. And that's the country Nigeria is today. You will have wondered that the FCT minister will be busy with the doctors that are on strike in Abuja. That as at 3 days ago, patients were discharged from hospitals because there were no doctors for them. You know what it means? People that are sick, they started discharging their patients themselves because they said there's no doctor available. And this was a strike that they saw coming, that the doctors had won over non-payment and everything. Almost every doctor strike has the same thread in this country. It has to do with money and welfare, non-payment, deductions and all of that. You will have thought that that should have been the front burner of the FCT minister. But what is the FCT minister doing today? He's busy gloating. And he's busy claiming that he has the right to turn the constitution over his head and create an aberration. You heard what he said. It wasn't my word. He said that if they didn't want the state of emergency to end, it would not have ended. So you see, when I say President Tinubu will explain, tire, no evidence, you people thought I was just being, farcical or something. So you can see that President Tinubu's explanation has no justification because there was no security threat there, no matter how much they tried to couch it. It was part of the gifts they've given to Mr. Nyesom Wike to be able to fight with his political godson. And the reason they have done that is so that it will act as a deterrent for other political godsons that might want to go astray. It's not today. The same thing panned out. Today, Alhaji Lamidi Adewolula Doja is going to be Olubadan. When he was governor, he had a fight too with his political godfather. His political godfather, Baba Molete. Baba Molete has passed today. That was how the forces that be also orchestrated an impeachment for him. So it's not today that they use impeachment and state of emergencies to fight their political godson. So the FCT minister, not minding what was happening in Abuja, was busy gloating yesterday on TV. In fact, he even called all his political adversary snail that they don't have shell, while doctors are on strike in the FCT. You can see the hypocrisy and the joke. And he said Fubara should come back. Yes. What will he come back to? He comes back as a lame dog. The plan was to ensure that the third level of government, the local government, they got it with themselves and they used the state of emergency to get that. Already, the State House of Assembly is already in their pocket. So with those two architecture in the hands of the godfather, the godson is a lame dog. So like he comes, he doesn't come. They've released him. It's his problem. That's why the godfather will say, I don't care, he should come, let peace reign. Now we're forgiven. The forgiveness here is that they've been able to browbeat him with the architecture of state. So that's the forgiveness. And when the State House of Assembly said they were going to probe Ibokete Ebas, you see, we joke too much in this country. You probe Ibokete Ebas, that was part of the scheme that was in your favor. Is that the country we live in? It was part of the scheme that was in your favor. He was there to be able to ensure that there was an easy emergence. That's what the Ibokete Ebas was there, as regards the local government. So he's come to do the bidding. I will wait and I will challenge the Rivers State House of Assembly. Probe. Let me see one indictment against Ibokete Ebas. I will know you people are ready. Let me see Ibokete Ebas being taken to court or challenged. I will know you people are ready. They will just talk about those things to think Nigerians are full and move around. So that's why the country is the way it is. Everybody keeps thinking the people are, but they forget that the state is owned by the people. The state is owned by the people. So we are not surprised. Is that not what is panning out in Osun State? Now they're saying a fictitious letter is coming out that they want to transfer the case. Yeah. The PDP is accusing the APC of high-handedness. They want to use federal might. But all of this is happening under the same President Tinubu that we all stood by and condemned Olusegun Obasanjo for when we withheld local government funds because he created more local government. And we called Jagaban the hero, then Jagaban. But you can see 360 degrees turn around now. In just less than how many? 20 years. All the things that President Tinubu and the likes of the news and other newspaper condemned Olusegun Obasanjo are the things that they have done in return now when they are in power. So you look, what's the future of the country? The opposition of today becomes the dictator of tomorrow. The dictator of tomorrow probably will become the opposition of today. I don't even know. I'm confused. Because there's no how you want to rationalize Nigerian matter, you will not be confused. So let's keep on the hypocrisy, the kind of joke our country has become. Dr. Abati, give them an editorial input, editorially.
Let me start with the resident doctors. The case of the resident doctors is more or less the same case with, every other employee. We always say that a laborer deserves his wages. Now, this National Association of Resident Doctors in the FCT, they served notice that they were going to go on strike. But characteristically, the way the Nigerian government has been handling labor issues, they were ignored. Now, since last week, they've been on strike. And what is the issue? It's about payment of allowances. It's about the payment of arrears, covering about 13 months. I think it's unfortunate that a strategic sector like the health sector, that the major key persons there are treated shabbily. They say a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. But in this country, we don't even seem to think that medical professionals generally are important. And that was why one former federal minister once said in this country that, look, we have more than enough doctors. Anybody who wanted to go to Saudi Arabia or UK or wherever can go wherever he or she wanted. Whereas we are not up to, we don't even meet the ratio in terms of what WHO recommends in terms of patient-doctor ratio. And now, what is the latest development? The Senate is appealing to the resident doctors. The Committee on Health met with the striking doctors or their representatives yesterday, and they are appealing to them to go back to work. No, what is important is that this kind of situation should not happen. Because when the resident doctors decided to go on strike, it was nurses and midwives who were, taking care of the hospitals, the public hospitals in the Federal Capital Territory. Now the nurses and midwives are also serving notice that they plan to join the resident doctors and go on strike. So who will now be in charge of the hospitals? Before you know it, maybe pharmacists and other health professionals will also say they want to go on strike. And who suffers at the end of the day is the patient. It is families. And in any case, it's not as if these hospitals are well-resourced. They are under-resourced. The nurses are overworked. Midwives are saying that their workload is a burden onto them. So you just further complicate the situation. The basic point that we should make is that, look, the government, whether at the federal level or at the local government level or at whatever level, has a responsibility to take the health sector more seriously. The same argument that will make also for the education sector and other strategic areas of national development that affect the lives of the people directly. Now, as for Osun State, the allegations in the story, I think the story is in the window page of This Day Today. And then I think it's also in Punch, front page advertisement in Punch. Now the Osun State PDP, they've been having issues over local governments, over local government allocations, about matters in court, which they say that, look, in the first place, it is wrong for the federal government, for the Tinubu administration to withhold allocations to local councils. And it is also wrong for an account to be opened in the Central Bank of Nigeria, whereby APC members are the signatories who are not statutory members within the local government structure in Osun State. The other matter that is in court is about who are the legitimate local government chairmen in Osun State. So the matter has now been heavily politicized on all fronts. But this indictment or the allegation against the judiciary, I think should be worrisome, because the Osun State PDP, through their spokespersons, they were saying that, look, the integrity of the judiciary is being called to question in this matter as follows. One, that in August, there was a letter that emanated from the office of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, purportedly making a vacation job a substantive judge in the matter. And that person, that special assistant, is not authorized in their view, they allege, because it is only a judicial officer who has the authority. And they say they want this investigated. There was a second letter in September, which was even now written by a so-called assistant to the assistant, whom they claim is unknown. And that, this is a violation of processes. Even if a matter is going to be taken from a particular court to the other or assigned to another officer, they say there must be an application in place, but that there was no application for a change of judge. However, I think the major issue here is that the matter should be investigated. They are calling for an investigation by the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, whether, there was due authorization. And the question to ask, because you have to look at the circumstances, did the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, did he direct the special assistant to write a letter on his behalf? Is the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court aware that an assistant to his own assistant also issued another letter in September? But the onus, however, is on the spokespersons of the Osun State PDP who are making these allegations to provide proof and to engage directly with the authorities of the Federal High Court. The second major allegation that they pointed out was that, they said that the Attorney General of the Federation is behaving like an interested party in the matter. They argued that the Attorney General of the Federation has turned the Federal High Court system into an extension of his chambers because he has an interest in the matter. Now, that's also a very serious allegation. And they must, have proof to be able to say, okay, Attorney General of the Federation, we think you are behind this matter because of your connection with the government of the day, because of your own circumstances previously. I think the ones accused the Attorney General of having been the counsel on the part of, a party to the matter. So these are serious allegations because they speak directly to the integrity of the judiciary. And they are calling the integrity of both the Attorney General and of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court to question. But in any case, there is nothing wrong in a vacation job being made a substantive judge, if that is the direction.
There was no urgency. That's their argument.
No, if the authorization is proper from the chief judge, because vacation judges, their matters can be taken later and awarded and assigned to another, another particular judge. But what we can say categorically is that there should be an investigation of the circumstances here. Now I go to Rivers. Now, yesterday must be indeed a very historic day for the people of Rivers State, and that was why many of them trooped to the streets. In fact, there were spots along Azikiwe Road in Port Harcourt yesterday, people jubilating and showing excitement that the emergency rule in Rivers State had ended. An emergency rule that a cross-section of stakeholders in Rivers State considered illegal, unconstitutional, and unjustified. And that opinion was also heard, across the spectrum within the Nigerian space. But that is over now. So Ibokete Ibas has now left. I've seen a video showing him leaving. And I think he also made a speech. He said a lot of lessons have been learned, and that the people of Rivers State will need vigilance and resilience. I hope that, those lessons that he was talking about yesterday are lessons that have been truly learned across, the various segments of society and also the stakeholders involved in the matter of Rivers State. The people were expecting Governor Sim Fubara to show up yesterday, but he was not there. He will show up at some point. I'm not too sure that Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, and the self-styled godfather of Rivers politics, said that Fubara can run from anywhere. What I remember, I can rule from anywhere. What I remember was him saying he's not the chief security officer of Fubara and that he's not his protocol officer. Okay? But in good time, and that he's a governor. It doesn't mean that the day, you know, the matter is resolved, that's when you show up. But whatever it is, we hope that Fubara will show up at some point, wherever he is. Now, the president has given directive that that has been lifted and that, you know, governance has been restored to normalcy. However, another thing that Minister Wike said is that, he's not in a position to appoint commissioners for the governor. Well, we hope that he means that. And we hope that he will allow Governor Fubara to run the state for whatever is the remainder of his tenure. Number two, when Governor Fubara returns, he must toe the path of reconciliation. I'm sure he will be one of those persons who may have learned some lessons in the last 6 months. He must know that he has to work with the House of Assembly in particular and work with other stakeholders in the state to move the state forward. Because in the last 6 months, the received opinion is that the people of Rivers State were the ones who held the short end of the stick. The House of Assembly convened yesterday at the main hall of the legislative quarters. The sole administrator had said he was going to rebuild the House of Assembly. Well, I don't think he did. I don't think the House of Assembly is ready. But they said yesterday, that's the lawmakers, that one, the governor should go ahead post haste to submit his list of commissioners. Two, he should submit his budget for the remaining part of the year to them. Three, they are also saying that they are going to carry out a proper audit of the 6 months under the sole administrator, Ibokete Ibas. Well, we hope that they will be successful in that regard because that budget was approved by the National Assembly. And Ibokete Ibas may just say, well, he is accountable to the president of Nigeria, who gave him a mandate that he said he fulfilled. But it is appropriate that questions will be asked about how that mandate was exercised. Finally, the Rivers State elders and leaders, the Council of Elders, they have finally shown up again. For some time, all the groups that disappeared, the women supporting Fubara, the youth groups supporting Fubara, the Rivers State elders and leaders of thought, they are all back. And the elders have found their voice again. But the entire community in Rivers State should spare us, the rest of us in this community called Nigeria, the agony of one day, one trouble in Rivers State. Because Rivers State got to a stage where the state became a theater for one day, one trouble. And we hope that Minister Wike, the minister, who is being said he is going to put some commissioners there, should just give Fubara the free hand to do his work. And I hope the minister too learned some lessons about how it is not good to disrupt the order in his own state.
I think the lesson was that it's okay to actually disrupt the order in your state. Because when you disrupt the order in your state, I think one of the biggest lessons would be to know who to align with. Once you align with the right person, irrespective of whether or not you disrupt the state, the order of the state.
Congratulate.
And I think another lesson.
Maybe when Fubara comes, maybe he will declare for APC. Or we will pledge loyalty to President Tinubu.
We preempted that
whatever,
already.
But we don't want one day, one trouble.
I believe the PDP should begin to count their losses already. I think they might just have lost Rivers State as a party. But, Dr. Bati, talking about lessons, I wasn't going to talk about this, but when you talked about lessons, I thought it was important to also mention that when we've been looking at the Rivers State politics, we've talked a number of times about setting a precedence. And what this also means is that a lesson for, at least political godfather, is that political godfatherism can be profitable if done the right way and if you align with the right camp. as we've seen in Rivers State. And this was what the people of Rivers State, the elders, the women had come out to fight against. That Rivers State would not be like other states where political godfatherism had taken the order of the day and that we're going to own their state. Unfortunately, 6 months down the line, post the sole administrator in power, it seems the number of them kept quiet, went to hide in their shell, and now they've reemerged. What has happened in Rivers State in the last 2 years has been more politics rather than governance. And again, the sympathies to the people of Rivers State themselves, who now seem as if they had to fold their hands and watch whilst the power no longer is in their hands as the owners of the state themselves, but also actually in the hands of a few. And that's why we kept, we spoke very loudly about the unconstitutionality of what's happened in Rivers State in the last 6 months, and no justification, at least to warrant the establishment of a state of emergency in the state and the emergence of a sole administrator, taking us backwards in democratic principles in Nigeria, especially in the state of Rivers. Now, for Governor Sim Fubara, I'm quite taken aback to see that he hasn't resumed work. I believe that he should come out, and he has a duty to the people that voted him in to explain, or at least to come back and show that he's in charge. Yesterday, we asked the question to our correspondent on ground, Friday Oloko, that who is in charge in Rivers State? It seems like the House of Assembly members, State House of Assembly members at least have resumed and seem to be taking charge of things. They have spoken out, yet no word from the elected governor of the state. I believe it's time for Governor Sim Fubara to show true leadership. Since the beginning of his tenure, this has been something that's been called for again and again. Stand up, you are the governor, take action, take leadership. And it is a bit, if I might say, disappointing to see that a man whom power has been imposed on by the trust of the people is not stepping up to that. I believe that the people deserve a governor that can stand up in a time like this and show leadership. And so even though people say, oh, he doesn't have to resume on the first day, I think it shows bad optics. Despite all the people had come out to welcome him with grandeur and fanfare, and there was no one to actually welcome. But let's take politics aside and let's actually now focus on the issue of governance. The House of Assembly have said they're going to probe the administration of the sole administrator. They're going to probe the amount of money that was spent. They've applauded his conduct of the local government election, saying that it was peaceful, and now there's a form of stability in the state, however which way you would like to define stability. But at least let us begin to move now and look at the things that matter. A budget has to be passed. Commissioners have to be appointed. People have to work in parastatals and begin to actually revitalize the economy and the state of Rivers. So I'm hoping that this will happen in the next few days. Today, again, the hashtag, the search is on. It's almost beggars believe that there's a search now for the governor of a state. It's almost ridiculous. Well, now let's move on to the Abuja's doctor strike, which I believe is one of the most important stories this morning because it's a reflection of our country today. Recall that in March 2021, there was a strike by the resident doctors. In July 2023, same strike, same issues by the resident doctors. In June of 2025, there was a notice given. And so I find it quite interesting that now we have politicians coming out to say that, oh, let us now talk. Post the 4 weeks notice that was given in June, post the notices that were given even before the strike action took place, post the warning strike that they embarked on. They didn't find time within that period to have negotiations with these doctors. And what are they asking for? The Medical Doctors Residency Training Fund to be paid. It is their right. It is an allowance that is due to them. Yet again and again, the state has failed one of the most critical sectors in our nation in the area of our health. And then we keep talking about, oh, let us negotiate, let's come to the negotiation table. How long do we want our doctors to suffer before we actually take them seriously? The member of the House of Representatives was talking about how he applauds the patriotism of these doctors because they've not jackpot. I promise you, it's possibly because their application has not been approved. And that's a sad thing to say this morning. And why would they not have the justification to live in droves whereby we have a massive brain drain in this sector? Because we see the actions. A number of people are actually very patriotic. If you speak to a number of the doctors, they want to stay back in their home country. We've often talked about the setback of jackpot, this massive mass migration, how a number of people go abroad and there's division in the family, division in many areas. They'd rather stay back home, but the conditions are unfavorable. Can we actually pay attention and not just lip service to one of the most critical sectors in the country, which is the medical sector? I'm hoping that next year there will not be another call for a strike because someone is not doing their job in the Ministry of Health, in Abuja, FCT, and it's not just Abuja, to be fair. Across the nation, there have been many times when a nationwide strike has been called by the NARD. In Osun State, what they're asking for is just accountability, transparency, and respect for the rule of law. And that's why some critical questions have been brought forward today to the Chief Justice of the state by the PDP. And I believe the onus is on, in respect of the rule of law, and to uphold the institution of the judiciary for them to respond to these questions. We do not want to see a breakdown of democracy, as we've seen in other states in the country, under a democratic president, breakdown again in Osun State. So the questions before them have been asked. We are hoping for a response, and hopefully that the right thing is done in the state.